Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, honoured and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University of Central Lancashire, I'm delighted to warmly welcome you to the Preston Guildhall and to the inauguration of the University of Central Lancashire's new Chancellor, Ranvir Singh, and Vice-Chancellor, Professor Mike Thomas. I did mention before that there are no planned fire drills scheduled during this event, so please do take another moment just to examine and note where the nearest fire exit is to your seat. I now call upon the Pro-Chancellor, David Taylor, to give his welcome.
Thank you, Alan. Chancellor or Chancellor-to-be, Vice-Chancellor-to-be, honoured guests from all walks of life, welcome to a double celebration. Firstly, we celebrate the inauguration of Ranvir as our new Chancellor. This is only the third Chancellor that we've had since the university was established. Ranvir should have been covering another inauguration today on the other side of the Atlantic, but I'm sure today will be much more civilised and much more enjoyable. I heard on the news this morning that there were going to be 38,000 riot police troops and snipers in Washington, so I think I saw a couple of constables at the door. We'll be okay. Don't panic, there will be no announcements today about building walls between Lancashire and Yorkshire or getting Yorkshire to pay for it. Now there's a challenge. Secondly, we celebrate the inauguration of Professor Mike Thomas as our new Vice-Chancellor. Mike and I have worked very closely together over the last 18 months, and I must say it's been a pleasure working with Mike. We are partway through a journey. We've seen a lot of change happen in the last few months, and we've had to work extremely closely to achieve what we have achieved. So I look forward, Mike, very much in the years ahead to working with you. So we gather today as a very broad church, and I'd like to welcome our university community. I'd like to welcome civic leaders, our multi-faith representatives, business, government, partner colleges and institutions, student union, and of course my board. And I'd like to pay a particularly warm welcome to our international partners who have travelled across the world to be here today. We have our colleagues and partners from Cyprus, from Oman, and from Shanghai in China. And I'd like to say to them and say to you as well, despite the impression that seems to be abroad at the moment that people aren't really welcome here at the moment, I'd like to confirm that international students and international staff and partnerships will also always be welcomed by UCLan. There are no job descriptions for university chancellors, and when we got to thinking about it, or when I started to think about it, I thought we need someone that's appropriate to our needs, to our circumstances, and to our time. Many names were considered, but when I saw Ranvir's CV, I had a kind of an instinctive feeling that she would be a perfect fit. Now, I've been around a while, and I've seen a few situations where I've looked at a CV and then I've met the person, and it's quite difficult sometimes to tie the two up. But I won't go into detail because there'll be detail in the citation. Ranvir is a Preston woman, educated locally, including studying here at UCLan, and she's now, of course, an outstanding journalist and communicator on both the national and international stage. So the paperwork, I'm delighted to say, fitted the person that I met for a coffee in London about probably 6 months ago. We met for a coffee. Now, I have to be careful here because I was going to say it was love at first sight, but my wife's here, so I'll have to be very careful. But within within a few seconds, it wasn't even minutes, it was within a few seconds, I just had an instinctive feeling that Ranvir was right for us and we were right for Ranvir. So, welcome Ranvir to the UCLan family. And could I also pay tribute to our outgoing Chancellor, Sir Richard Evans, who's a guest of honour here today. Sir Richard served this university with distinction since 2001. He's given us continuity through years of fundamental change. He's represented the university both nationally and internationally. I was in Oman on university business just a few weeks ago when one of the members of the royal family sort of sidled up to me and said, "I'll give my best wishes to Sir Richard." Richard's given a huge amount of his time to our degree awards, but probably the most important contribution is his patronage and support for our Harris Bursary Fund. In the last 5 years, the Bursary Fund alone has enabled 500 Lancashire-based students to come and study at this university, which is really an immense contribution. Just for your information, 50% of UCLan students come from a household where the income is less than £20,000 a year. And that's really quite a remarkable achievement. Now, I'm new to the university sector, but the one thing I found out quite quickly is the sector's besotted with league tables. It loves league tables for research, for academic excellence. And of course, you won't be surprised to hear that the wealthy London universities, the Oxfords and the Cambridges generally come at the top. So I'd like to have a league table for wider access, where I think we'd be, if we weren't at the top, we'd certainly qualify for Europe. And it would be lovely to see Oxford and Cambridge being relegated. So I'd like you to join with me in thanking Sir Richard for his immense contribution to this university. Thank you. So we also celebrate, as I said earlier, Mike's inauguration as Vice-Chancellor. We have worked incredibly closely together over the last 18 months. We have to rebuild the senior team here, and we've now got more or less a completely new senior management team, which is very, very exciting for the university going forward. Despite all the change that we've been working with and wrestling with, during that time we've moved the university into the top 3.7% of worldwide universities, which is really quite an amazing achievement. Mike combines two traits in life which are often in conflict. He's both passionate and compassionate, and I often find that there's a conflict between them. He's very passionate about our mission, but he's very compassionate in terms of the way that he deals with his students, with his staff, and with the whole institution. He's utterly committed to the cause, and I thoroughly look forward to working with Mike in the years ahead. Let me finish by just mentioning two other projects that will give you a flavour for where we are going at this moment in time. The first is a subject close to my heart because I've spent most of my life in the whole field of regenerating towns and cities. And we almost, from the moment I arrived here, we set about creating a new master plan for the university. Now, I can look around the room and see one or two people old enough to remember that central Lancashire was designated as a new town. It was going to be Preston, Chorley and Lancashire. And what happened then, and I'm old enough to remember this, was we made a terrible mistake. Never let highway engineers design roads, because all they're interested in is cars. So at the heart of what was then a big polytechnic, what did they do? They put a figure of 8 roundabout, nearly a motorway-style roundabout, slap bang in the middle of our campus. It's going to be wiped away, and we've created a new plan. We've flattened the Fylde building, which would have been well at home in Moscow. That's gone. We have broken ground now on our new engineering centre, the EIC. That's a £30 million project that started construction. We're working on social spaces for students, which is to connect a number of our existing buildings with areas where students can work together, talk together and relax. And that's an £8 million project. And we're well on now with our new student centre, which is a £60 million project, which will start in the not too distant future. But the jewel in the crown is that where the roundabout currently stands, we'll create probably the first major new civic square that's been built in any city in Britain for the last 100 years. A fantastic new civic square which will anchor the town centre, Friargate, to the university and give the whole campus a focus. And we're really, really excited. This project will be transformational just for the university, but for the city, the county and the region. And then the second project, just to touch on briefly, relates to our Cyprus campus. Let me start with it's not a funny story, but it's a true story. As we speak at the moment, in Geneva, there talks are going on which hopefully will lead to unification of North and South Cyprus, which would be a fantastic thing in a world that just seems to continue to divide and divide and divide. But when the trouble broke out, the island split into the north and the south, and the United Nations established a buffer zone. This is a sort of 2-mile strip across the centre of the island. And in that buffer zone, nothing really was supposed to happen. So we got together with some partners who are here today, and in that area where nothing was supposed to happen, we built a university campus for 3,000 students. An incredibly controversial project. It's been controversial over the years, but that project now stands right on the border between the north and the south. So along comes Brexit, and about 3 days into my post-Brexit hangover, so you'll be able to work out where I was coming from, I suddenly realised that we're probably, and I've checked it out, we're probably going to be one of the only British universities that has a campus in Europe post-Brexit. In fact, there are only 2, Middlesex in Malta and UCLan in Cyprus. So the Cyprus campus will be incredibly important to our development going forward. So today is a day for celebration. A university with plans for the future and a great future. A university that will remain and maintain an international outlook. A university with a fantastic new Chancellor and a fantastic new Vice-Chancellor. So a day for celebration. You're all very, very welcome. Enjoy the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, honoured and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University Board, the Academic Board and the staff and students of the University of Central Lancashire, I present Ranvir Singh to be inaugurated as the 3rd Chancellor of the University. Ranvir was brought up here in Preston, completing a postgraduate diploma in broadcast journalism at UCLan in 2000. She is now known to millions as a presenter on Good Morning Britain, ITV Evening News and News at 10 and the Tonight programme. She also has her own primetime series for ITV, Real Stories with Ranvir Singh. In 2013, she received a UCLan Honorary Fellowship for her contribution to broadcasting. In 2015, she was Asian Media Personality of the Year. Many of you will already know this, but what you may not know is that our incoming Chancellor was born here in Preston in 1977. And as far back as she can remember, her dad would always make sure the whole family was sitting quietly when the evening news came on, and he'd say, "You have to know what's happening in the world." And this stuck with Ranvir for life. Ranvir was educated at Kirkham Grammar School and graduated from Lancaster University with a degree in English and philosophy. Her postgraduate qualification at UCLan led to a 6-month contract with BBC Radio Lancashire, after which Ranvir went on to produce and present radio news programmes and to report and read the news at BBC Radio Manchester for several years. From there, she moved into television. In 2007, after some years as a TV reporter, which included a specialism in education, Ranvir was invited to become a permanent presenter of the BBC Evening News in the North West. Combining this role with regular presenting on breakfast shows and phone-ins on 5 Live Radio, she covered everything from major sporting events abroad to gangland shootings to political car crashes at home. And she cites Gordon Brown's bigot moment as one of her most memorable. In 2012, ITV came knocking, and the prospect of working on national and international news every day, as well as interviewing main players on live television, was far too tempting to resist. Her favourite moments so far have been reporting ahead of the G20 from Sierra Leone slums, being the first to report from the Serbian-Macedonia border during migrant crisis as thousands walk for miles with children in minus 20 degrees. And on a lighter note, appearing on the University Challenge Christmas special. Family fortunes with her own family and meeting Kermit the Frog. But her most recent career high was reporting on the US presidential election results live from Washington. Now mother to a young son, people often remark that Ranvir must be one of the hardest working presenters on TV because after a role on Good Morning Britain, for which she awakes and gets up at 2:30 in the morning, she is then often seen on national ITV News in the evening, with filming for other programmes squeezed in between. And luckily, she loves what she does, and her career has gone from strength to strength. In 2015, Ranvir won Media Personality of the Year at the Asian Media Awards. However, when she can steal a moment, she tries to keep up with her other passions, reading women's literature and running, though she assures me she'll never do another marathon. As a message to the students who are embarking on their professional lives and may be wondering what to do next career-wise, Ranvir has these words of advice. You may think that you want a job where you earn loads of money, and you might well go for that. But if you do something that you're passionate about, it won't feel like work, and the good money can easily follow. And if you're doing something that you really love because you're prepared to put in the long hours without a second thought, then before you know it, you'll be climbing the ladder. Ranvir is living proof of the wisdom of her words. Having grown up and studied here in Preston, her individual qualities and professional achievements make Ranvir an excellent role model for our students and an ideal fit for the role of Chancellor. Ranvir Singh, on behalf of the staff and student community of the University of Central Lancashire, I have pleasure in inviting you to accept the Chancellorship of the University.
I thank you and the University of Central Lancashire, and I am honoured to accept the Chancellorship of the University.
Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, honoured and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University Board, the Academic Board and the staff and students at the University of Central Lancashire, I present Professor Mike Thomas to be inaugurated as the 4th Vice-Chancellor of the University. Born in 1959 in Bangor, North Wales, Professor Mike Thomas had a mixed educational experience and attended 10 different schools due to his father's work, which involved travelling the country helping to build power stations. After serving as a submariner during the Cold War period, Mike worked for a time in the engineering sector before graduating with a degree in healthcare from the University of Manchester. He went on to obtain a Master's in Law from Liverpool John Moores University, followed by a PhD in psychotherapeutic interventions at the University of Nottingham, and is an alumnus of the Said Business School, University of Oxford. Mike's early career was rich and a diverse one, which saw him pioneer treatments for people with eating disorders, hold management positions in industry and public sector, and practice as a mental health nurse and psychotherapy consultant, as well as his time in the Royal Navy. His academic career has included posts at the University of Salford, the University of Wales, and Leeds Metropolitan University, before spending 8 years at the University of Chester in a variety of senior leadership roles, including Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Executive Dean of the Faculty of Health and Social Care. Mike was responsible for managing Chester's 8 faculty deans, curriculum developments and student progression, and had a special interest in incorporating entrepreneurial practices into the student learning experience. He also served on several of Chester's senior executive boards and committees. It was in 2014 that Mike joined the University of Central Lancashire as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Professor of Organisational Leadership. As well as leading on all strategic and operational aspects, he supervises a number of PhD students who explore management and leadership with a particular emphasis on stewardship, values, and resilience. He carries out research into the area of compassion and kindness in leadership, and his management ethos in respect of UCLan staff and students is built around genuine teamwork to achieve success as an individual, organisational, and community level. He has maintained a clinical caseload and specialises in eating disorders and post-traumatic stress disorders, as well as differential assessments. Away from the university, Mike has served on several external regional boards and a number of national committees, including 20 years on Age UK Mid-Mersey, where he also spent 9 years as chair, 5 years as chair of the University Council of Deans, and 9 years on the Military Education Committee for Wales and the North West. He has led 3 social enterprising companies: Age UK Trading, Caring Whispers, an eating disorder charity, and Northwest University's cooperative, and continues to act as a consultant to third sector organisations and startups. He is the former chair of the National Council for Enterprise in Education and is a fellow of the Higher Education Academy, the Royal Society for Arts, and the British Psychological Society. As an ex-submariner for many years, Mike has worked on projects which support military discharge service personnel to find new life and career opportunities. He is the co-founder and director of the College for Military Veterans and the Emergency Services, based here in Preston. Married with 2 grown-up children, Mike lists his interests outside of work as running, walking the dog, gardening, and being active in third sector developments, where he works with several charities and boards. As someone who passionately believes that there is an onus on universities to do social good, Mike says he feels a true affinity for UCLan's ethos to change people's lives for the better. And this can be through teaching, research, and learning, and importantly, through our impact on the community around us. Professor Mike Thomas, on behalf of the staff and student community of the University of Central Lancashire, I have pleasure in inviting you to accept the role of Vice-Chancellor of the University.
The role of Vice-Chancellor of the University is one I am delighted and honoured to accept.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ranvir Singh and Professor Mike Thomas will now leave the hall, escorted by the Pro-chancellor, to be dressed into the Chancellor's and Vice-Chancellor's robes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the University of Central Lancashire Chamber Choir. The members of the University Chamber Choir are all students of music theatre, and this is within the School of Journalism, Media and Performance, where Mark Goggins is both course leader and choir director. The university is extremely proud of the growing reputation and success of the Chamber Choir. In recent years, the Chamber Choir has won national competitions, including the BBC Radio 3 Adult Choir of the Year. The choir has also performed on BBC One, BBC 4 and BBC Radio 3. The Chamber Choir has a well-established annual tour of the southwest of France and has sung at other overseas venues, including at partner institutions in places such as Shanghai. As well as performing at important university occasions, the choir also sings at the civic and fundraising events within Preston and beyond. In July, more than 60 alumni members of the choir returned to Preston to join current students to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Chamber Choir with a concert at St John's Minster in Preston. This afternoon, the Chamber Choir will sing May It Be by Enya.
When darkness falls
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor will now take the university oath, officiated by the Pro-chancellor. Do you, Ranvir Singh, declare to fully fulfil the role of Chancellor and endeavour to maintain and uphold the privileges and rights of the university?
I, Ranvir Singh, hereby declare that I will duly fulfil the role of Chancellor and that I will endeavour to maintain and uphold the privileges and rights of the university.
And do you, Professor Mike Thomas, declare to duly fulfil the role of Vice-Chancellor and endeavour to maintain and uphold the privileges and rights of the university?
I, Professor Mike Thomas, hereby declare that I will duly fulfil the role of the Vice-Chancellor and that I will endeavour to maintain and uphold the privileges and rights of the university.
Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, could I now ask you please to take your seats? I now call upon the Students' Union President, Sana Iqbal, to give her address on behalf of the student body.
Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honour and duty to stand here today on behalf of the students and formally welcome Chancellor Ranvir Singh and Vice-Chancellor Professor Mike Thomas to the University of Central Lancashire. Students today look to leaders in a position of power for inspiration, and where better to look than Ranvir and Mike. When writing this speech, I decided to do what many young people in my generation do and took to social media to really ask students what they think of our new Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor. So here goes. Mike is always happy and friendly. When you tell him an issue, you can tell that he's always genuinely concerned. Another wrote, he truly just wants to help students create the best future. And a personal favourite, Mike, yeah, he's a sound bloke. And for Ranvir, we first met Ranvir in the Students' Union and she was sat in the Pulse radio station with us. She was just a complete ball of energy, fun to be around and very down to earth. And finally, it says a lot about the direction of UCLan if we can have someone like Ranvir, a local woman from an ethnic minority background, leading our university. In today's climate, what students need more than ever are leaders who work together to create an equal and fair education system that provides an excellent student experience and is open to all, irrespective of background. We need our leaders to protect higher education from marketisation, inequality, and elitism, because it appears that the current government are incapable to do the job. I have every faith that Ranvir and Mike will continue to fight for the students of today and tomorrow. I truly look forward to working with you both, and I pray that you have a long and successful time here at UCLan, helping to make life better for students. Thank you.
I now call upon the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Mike Thomas, to give his address.
Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, board members, honoured and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the University of Central Lancashire celebrates with you all, our staff, our students, colleagues, friends, partners, and our community. And thank you for joining with us. You are here as the university has much to look forward to. We have a new executive management team in place, colleagues which have value for their team approach and total commitment to our students, our staff, and our community here in Lancashire. Led by our experienced and supportive Chair and Pro-Chancellor David Taylor, our University Board has added new expertise to its ranks. And today, we install our third Chancellor, Ranvir Singh, on this significant day. I've been in post for just over a year, but we decided to hold on for Ranvir and offer you extra value, really, with a 2-for-1 special by including my inauguration on the same day. We have to take our time here. As an institution, the University of Central Lancashire is older than the majority of other universities in the country. Our ancestor, the Institution for the Diffusion of Knowledge, was founded here in the city, in Preston, nearly 190 years ago on the 7th of October 1828. I personally think it's a testament to previous office holders and staff that our mission still connects us to our far-sighted founders who set out to bring education within the reach of working people at a time when money, position and religion were still the main entry requirements for aspiring students. Within this University of Central Lancashire, we believe that a university education should be available to everyone who can benefit from it. And to prove it, we have some of the highest figures in the country for students who are local, part-time, mature, and from different religions, backgrounds, and social groups. And today, our third Chancellor, Ranvir, follows in those distinguished footsteps. She will be an exceptional ambassador for the university and a fine role model for our students. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our second Chancellor, Sir Richard Evans, for his generous commitment to the university, which he has brought to the office over the last 16 years. Sir Richard has always retained a strong interest in our progress. He has represented the university with wisdom and acumen, both on public occasions and behind the scenes, and I'm grateful to him for his insightful and informed counsel. Sir Richard remains and always will be a truly respected member of this university's family, valued and admired by us all. And now Ranvir takes up the Chancellorship at a time of great change, both here within the university and also within the sector at large. The major uncertainties, the one we all face, is the implications for Brexit and the future links between European and British communities. This is particularly true for universities. To put this in context, every year universities in the UK generate £73 billion for the UK economy. £3.7 billion of that is generated by students from EU countries, and they support 380,000 jobs in the university sector. Strong universities, like the University of Central Lancashire, create employable graduates and cutting-edge research with discoveries that improve lives. We have 37,000 students here. They generate over £170 million per annum to the local economy, and the university has supported over 1,000 new business startups over the last 3 years. Our global links, our welcoming and friendly city, and the wonders of Lancashire County attract international students, trade and investment. And in the coming months, we will continue to convince the UK government to take steps that ensure staff and students from EU countries can continue to work and study at British universities and promote the UK as a welcoming destination for talented students. We will also prioritise securing opportunities for researchers and students to access vital pan-European networks and continue to build our global network. Expanding the opportunities for students to study alongside those from around Europe, will enhance the world-class student experience that we provide. And we are fortunate and proud to have a thriving campus in Cyprus, which in the years ahead will play a key role in helping the university in its global endeavours. Closer to home, as our Chair and Pro-Chancellor David Taylor has already said, we will see a major upgrade to our campus here in our home city of Preston. Our 10-year, £200 million campus project is moving from planning to development. With the help of the Northern Powerhouse Minister Andrew Percy MP, we have already broken ground on our £30 million Engineering Innovation Centre, and we intend to spend over £8 million in the Social Spaces project that is now being constructed as a direct result of student feedback and in consultation with our Students' Union. We're also investing £60 million in a student centre and a new square development which is well advanced. Our architects have been selected and we hope to be on site towards the end of next year. In our curriculum, we continue to make bold strides. The university is committed to working with local employers on new and emerging educational models, such as degree apprenticeships, 2-year degrees, and earn-as-you-learn programmes. It remains important for the university that we work with our further education colleges too. Indeed, we're working on a new model of educational delivery in conjunction with the Lancashire Enterprise Partnership and our further education partners and local companies to ensure our future graduates meet the employment needs of the local economy. This is very much a first, and we're proud that it's a pilot programme which central government may look to adopt and roll out across the UK. We continue to take a lead in entrepreneurship. We're in the top 3 UK universities for producing more student startups, and we're already a leader in the field, and we extend that, or hope to extend that, by working alongside businesses and organisations through the Northern Powerhouse Partnerships. I'm determined that we will realise our potential as a civic university. Reaching out to the community will not only depend on what the university does, but also on the capacity of local and regional partners to work together and reach into the university. A civic university sees itself as delivering benefits to individuals, organisations, and to society as a whole. It means putting academic knowledge, creativity, and expertise to work to come up with innovations and solutions that make a difference. It combines both the economic and the community strategies to produce new developments, learning, and research which improve the business and cultural life of our citizens. We have great ideas, and we have a great base on which to build. And to meet the challenges and opportunities, we must be ambitious, focused, determined, and work together in Lancashire for Lancashire. I truly believe that the University of Central Lancashire is well placed to meet these challenges. We've come a long way from the Institute for the Diffusion of Knowledge in 1828. We're in the world's top 3.7% of all universities. In the last year, we've won national and international accolades for the quality of our research. We were the winner of the 2016 Times Higher Education Award for Excellence and Innovation in the Arts. Our social engagement programmes, such as the Lancashire Science Festival, continue to gain national recognition, and the success of our spin-out companies show that the university is vibrant, successful, and proud to play our part in the city of Preston, the county of Lancashire, and globally. It's a message we need to spread more widely, within government, among public bodies, locally, regionally, nationally, within the business community, and amongst the people of the UK and elsewhere. The university can change lives through people studying and working with us. I'm proud to be the Vice-Chancellor of an ambitious university with an enthusiastic board, with both a friend and an advisor in its Chair and Pro-Chancellor David Taylor. I'm proud of my colleagues who commit their professional lives to supporting our students, and I'm proud of our students who go on to do so much good for our community and for our society. Working together, I know the university will continue its successful journey and will achieve much over the coming years. I look forward to undertaking that journey with all of you and in your company. Thank you.
I now call upon the Chancellor, Ranvir Singh, to give her address.
Well, this is not bad for a girl from Ribbleton. Here I am, standing in what is a handmade gown, I'll have you know, with real silver woven into it, that's been kept in a climate-controlled vault in the basement of one of the oldest tailors in the world. And here I am wearing it. It's worth quite a lot of money, isn't it, up here, I'm told. I can't take it home, unfortunately, is that right? Oh yeah, sorry, even as Chancellor? No? Okay. But look, hark at me, as they say, where I'm from. This is quite a moment for me. And as you know, as has already been mentioned, I should have been in Washington today, but I told them I had something better to do. Me and a gaggle of Democratic congressmen. Yeah, me and a gaggle of Democratic congressmen, a few artists, all just a bit too busy washing our hair today to attend. But in all seriousness, you can imagine the look on my editor's face. He was stunned and he was horrified that I would turn it down. But looking out here today and seeing some of my very dearest friends, my former teachers and colleagues, my beautiful son Tushan, my sister, my mum, and my wonderful nephew, tells me I made the right decision. I was, and yes, that's you. Hello. I was and still remain astonished that I was asked to become Chancellor of the university in my home city, where I truly began my journalism career. I'm not often a person who stands still long enough to look back and connect the dots. Often because looking back can be painful to those times when things haven't gone right. And I always like to move on to the next goal and think how I'm going to achieve that. But today I think is a moment for looking back, just briefly, and then looking forward again. The university has been very generous with me in allowing me to choose this date, for which I am thankful, because it is not random. Tomorrow is 30 years to the day since my dad died. He was 42, I was 9. He worked at Preston railway station when he had a heart attack, which is why I'm so glad to be patron for Heartbeat, the charity based at Preston North End, because had it existed before my dad died, he might have lived longer. What he did do for me in those short 9 years was instill in me a deep respect and appreciation for news and current affairs. Perhaps it was being a migrant that meant he was constantly wanting to be in tune with what was happening around the world. At 6 o'clock every weeknight after school, no matter who was in the house or who was calling or for what reason, for half an hour we had to be quiet, to not disturb him as he absorbed the evening news. The thought of him now watching me bring the national evening news is something I try not to think of too often, as it would probably break my heart. I remember when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984. I was 7, and I remember so clearly my dad being in the upstairs bedroom and running around the house shouting in just his pants, which is probably why I remember it mostly. But I was so struck by how the crackly, barely heard voice from tiny speakers in a little bedside radio changed his life in that moment. And bringing people the news changes people's lives. My mum's absolute respect for learning was apparent in 2 ways from a young age too. Every Saturday, as far back as I could remember, was spent downstairs in the Harris Library for hours on end, choosing my books for the week. It was a bright, vibrant environment, and so it was no surprise, perhaps, I went on to study English literature many years later. Books and the way they can transport you out of your present is something that still thrills me. And if there was a book on the floor, my mum would tell me off that I should never step on books or even over them. They were sacred and should be elevated above our feet. We are Sikh, which literally translated means to learn. We are forever students, all of us. Ambition and aspiration is what I learnt from my sisters, both much older than me, and I like to say that because it really annoys them. Much, much older than me. My big sister was 17 when I was 2 and was about to start training as a nurse. And she alone, at that age, decided that from our little terraced house on Miller Road, she wanted to send me to Woodlands Private School. And many of my teachers are here today. Out of what would have probably been a meagre salary, she chose to pay my school fees. Why? Because she had ambitions for me. Ambitions that your current circumstances are no obstacle to a bright future. My other sister, at just 21 years old, would drive up from Birmingham to attend parents' evenings at Kirkham Grammar School instead of my mum or late dad, and would regularly whip out her chequebook to pay for school trips to France or wherever. She was newly married, a cashier at a bank, and she didn't need to do it, but she did. These things are not forgotten, and it gives me great pleasure and a rare opportunity to be able to say thank you on an occasion like this, and I can't look at you. It is the things that people do selflessly along the way, your family and your friends, that can propel you forward. Connecting the dots going back came into sharp focus too when I accepted the role of Chancellor at UCLan. The first girl I met at KGS was a girl called Sally. We were both 11, and before our first year had even started, she invited me to her house. And I think my sister drove me there, to this gigantic, beautiful house in Freckleton, where, frankly, our whole house would have fit on the driveway. And I sort of remember both my sister and I sitting in the car silently, just staring at this amazing place, and she was like, "Are you sure this is where you're meant to be going?" I was like, "I think this is their house." When I was little, the windows at our house in Ribbleton would get smashed regularly by yobs who'd spotted there was a Brown family living there, or by mindless drunk people from the pub next door who used our house as target practice. My poor dad spent so much time boarding up windows, and then, as I came home from school, trying to hide them from me. So there we were, in I went into this lovely house, to be greeted by the most warm, most easygoing, kind family who just happened to have horses in their back garden. Sally had 2 older sisters like me, and the differences in our backgrounds melted away and became totally insignificant. And that's what a good education and a positive environment can do. Acknowledge the differences, but discover the connections. What is, though, significant looking back today is that I also met Sally's dad that day. It was Dick Evans, or Sir Richard Evans, as you know him, a leader in industry, knighted, supremely bright and well-connected. And so it was a complete and rather mind-boggling coincidence when I realised a few months ago that I would be taking over the role of Chancellor from him, 28 years after meeting him once in his kitchen. If evidence were needed of what education, aspiration and ambition combined can achieve, perhaps this moment is a good example. So I too would like to say thank you to Dick for his time at the university, and if I can contribute just a small fraction of what you have here, I'll be doing well. I understand too the need for role models, as Sana referred to. Though I can't claim to be one, I do vividly remember as a 12-year-old being transfixed and sort of hypnotised, watching Zainab Badawi on Channel 4 News. There she was, this strong, dark-skinned, unflinching, confident, composed woman sitting toe-to-toe with someone in power, equal in that moment. I can't remember what the interview was about, but just the image of her being there at all was powerful to me as a child. So perhaps by simply being present, it's a good start. I am deeply honoured to be given the chance to lead the charge for a great place of learning, a place that hones passions and propels young people out there to think big and then to put those feelings and desires into action. So I want to end by thanking all of you for coming today to share this moment and to celebrate what I hope and believe will be a bright future for this university and all of us who are lucky enough to be connected with it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there will now be an act of multi-faith blessing, and members of the university chaplaincy team, together with local faith leaders, will gather around the Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor in silent prayer. The blessing will be accompanied by the UCLan Chamber Choir, who will be singing Ubai Karatas by Ola Gijelo. I invite Canon Andrew Clitheroe, the UCLan chaplaincy team and local faith leaders to join us on the platform. As we bring the ceremony to a close, we would like to thank everyone who's been involved in making today an historic and memorable occasion. We would like to especially thank Mr. Mark Goggins and the University Chamber Choir, Edward Rugman, the Leyland Band and our interpreters, Maureen Nicholson and Barbara Murphy. And thank you for coming and sharing this special day with the university community. Please, may I ask you all to stand up for the national anthem. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor's procession will now leave. Guests, please may I ask you that you all remain seated until the Chancellor's procession has left the hall. We would like to invite you all to join us for a drinks reception and canapé downstairs in Live, the Guildhall foyer, where we will continue to celebrate today's historic occasion. Thank you.